So Bob, you started in this industry 30, 40 years ago. Here we are today, 2009, heading into 2010. A lot about society has changed. We have technology that we've never had before. How has that changed the real estate experience? How has that changed the way consumers interact with agents, agents interacting with consumers? Have you seen a marketable change in the way real estate is interacting in the last 30, 40 years?
You know, there's really two ways to answer that. And first thing that occurs to me is the Mark Twain quote of the human condition changes, but the human, I got it all wrong. First thing that occurs to me is Mark Twain said that the human experience changes, but the human condition does not. And quite simply, the day-to-day things that real estate agents do to satisfy the needs and concerns of their customers are the same. It's belly button to belly button selling. It's working hard with a buyer or a seller to do a good job so that that person's pleased with your experience, guiding them through a very emotional transaction, doing a job so that when they're done, you feel very comfortable saying, would you recommend me to somebody else? So those basics are there. That was going on 25 years ago, and it was probably going on 50 years ago. But the tools that are at the disposal of a buyer or of a seller today, when they can go on the World Wide Web and they can get information about properties anywhere they want. I mean, it's an amazing thing that they have such access to information. You can go on and you can find out, what your property is essentially worth. So those kinds of tools are completely different than what people had before. There were no computers. There was no internet. Real estate agents waited for a truck to show up each day and post the new listings on paper and flip through them. And then once a week or once a month, you'd get a book, and it would be a composite of what's on. So clearly things have changed dramatically. Clearly people can have access to significant information. The transaction can be electronically done in a way you don't drive around as much. But the basics of trying to do the right job for a buyer or a seller and guiding them through a very emotional transaction and trying to create a situation where everybody wins, that's still the same.
Do you think that because of two things, one is technology, and number two is the amount of information that the customer is exposed to, do you think it's changed the expectation that the consumer has in regard to what their real estate agent needs to know and how quickly they need to provide that knowledge?
Oh yeah, I think that there used to be a saying when I was in this business that it was an 80-20 business or a 70-30 business, and that was that there wasn't as wide a gap between the professional services rendered.
Right.
Today, it's going to be pretty hard to fake it. I mean, the consumer, if they even spend an iota of time, is going to have a vast array of information. They're going to know a lot. They can go online and find out what are the schools, what are the demographics, what's the mileage to industry or shopping centers. They're going to be able to see a number of homes that have either sold or are on the market in a comparison to the home that they might be looking at. It's all public information. So the real estate broker has to create value and value added by being in that transaction as a guide. And clearly with that degree of information, the broker today has got to do a much better job. And that's why I think that, very candidly, maybe it's not a 70-30 rule or an 80-20 rule. It's really a 90-10 rule. There are real estate agents and brokers that make a very good living at this business, but they earn it because they do such a good job and they differentiate themselves from other folks.
Do you think then that there's sort of a misunderstanding on the part of the consumers to what a real estate agent or broker is?
Oh, I think so. I think that clearly there's probably